My name is David Suchet, and I'm on a journey of a lifetime. I'm traveling across Europe in the footsteps of Agatha Christie's Poirot on the Orient Express.
Oh, this is extraordinary.
But this is not just a train ride. I'm on a journey through time. And the Orient Express is not just a train, it's a legend whose carriages have traveled through a changing Europe for over a century. I'm going to discover some of the extraordinary real-life dramas this train has witnessed, and I even get the chance to live every schoolboy's dream.
I can't believe this. I'm actually driving the Orient Express. Cheers.
In the spirit of the travellers of yesteryear, my journey takes me across Europe to Venice and Prague.
10 minutes.
Why don't you join me aboard the most famous train on earth? My journey starts at London's Victoria Station. A century ago, this is where thousands of excited travellers began their first trips to Europe. Today, I'm stepping out of the modern world back to the glamour of a previous era. I want to unravel a mystery, the mystery of the Orient Express. Why has it been, for over a century, the most talked about train in the world? And why did the world's most celebrated crime author choose that train for her most ingenious murder, to be solved, of course, by the world's most brilliant fictional detective, Hercule Poirot.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you today?
Very well, thank you.
Can I see your travel documents, please?
Yes, that's my passport.
Perfect. Do you have any luggage you want to give to me today?
I've got this one here. Can I take these two with me?
Yes, you can do. Have a lovely trip.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Today, I have 160 travelling companions, as well as my alter ego, the Belgian detective, Monsieur Hercule Poirot.
No.
No murders, please.
No.
Can't take the stress.
Not on this trip.
The way Poirot's mind works is not logical. He probably would have guessed who everybody is, what they all do, and who they're with already. I have to catch him up. And I'm just looking at the faces and looking at the clothes and sort of trying to work out certain things about personality. Who they're with, why they're with. You know, because certain people have been dressed very formally, very elegantly. I'm glad I got my tie on. Well, I've just been told that the train's going to come in a minute, so I'm going to take a photograph. Actually, I've also been told it's not steam. Not allowed it anymore, apparently. Here it comes, the Orient Express.
Just like in the old days, my journey is on two classic trains. First, this British Pullman will take me to Folkestone before I cross the Channel and meet up with the Orient Express sleeper in Calais, which will take me on to Venice and Prague.
Good morning, Mr. Suchet.
Oh, good morning.
Welcome to the Orient Express.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Mr. Monk.
Train manager.
How very nice to meet you.
If you'd like to follow me, we go on board.
Lovely, thank you.
We know, darling. Well, I don't. Let's go. Okay, thank you. Oh, really beautiful.
Even in the glamorous 1920s, these Pullmans were called palaces on wheels. I can see why.
Look at the marquetry here.
These carriages are original and all unique, each refurbished to their former glory.
Hello.
I hope we're not going to have a murder on.
I hope so too. I hope we don't.
Actually.
Are you?
I'm a bit worried seeing you.
Don't worry, I'm here. Without the moustache, but I'm still here.
Yes, I trust you, I trust you.
An armchair. How comfortable.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Would you like some Bellini, please?
Oh, I certainly would.
There's a real thrill to starting this epic adventure.
Here's to a pleasant journey.
The Orient Express took Victorian rail travel to another level. It all started in 1883 as the brainchild of one man, a Belgian no less. George Nugelmakers put luxury sleeping and dining cars on trains and ran those trains not just within one country, but across the borders of a turbulent Europe. For the first time, it was possible to travel thousands of miles across a continent in high-speed comfort. It was a huge breakthrough.
Oh, there we are. Over the River Thames. For me, it's the best river in the world. I love the River Thames.
It's hard to underestimate the social and political impact that rail travel had on Europe at the turn of the previous century.
If it wasn't for the railway, I probably wouldn't be here. But my great-grandfather wanted to leave Lithuania, and they could never do it until the railway started. The train became literally a passport to a new life. It must have been so exciting for people to realize they can leave and travel distances that they would never have dreamt of in a relatively short time. So that's what the train means to me.
Perfect.
There's a real sense of history in this Pullman carriage, of all those important people who've travelled on it and all those historic journeys.
Some of our carriages, Winston Churchill's funeral car and the favourite carriage of the Queen Mother. And
Is that the one we're in now?
No, this is Gwen. We have actually one of the old Brighton Bell carriages.
Tell me about the names of the different carriages.
Yeah, with the Brighton Bell carriages, all ladies' names, Vera and Gwen and Audrey. There's rumours around that the names of the carriages were mistresses of chaps who designed them, but we probably never know.
This is really elegant. It's an elegance that, sadly, in a way, we don't have anymore. Even though the trains were functional, they were somehow more special. And I don't think that's just me being old and remembering. I think that is true. And of course, that's the pleasure of me playing Poirot, because I'm in elegant surroundings all the time.
My breakfast over, this is where I leave Gwen and Audrey and her Pullman sisters for the next stage of my journey.
Oh, we've got a band. We've got a band. Oh, how marvellous. Look at
that. No train ride from Britain to the continent could ever be entirely seamless. The English Channel gets in the way.
Look at that. For me?
I'm crossing it in the style Hercule Poirot would expect.
Wow. Thank you. I hasten to add, this is not the normal way that passengers would go to the European side, the French side of the Orient Express, but this has been laid on for me as a very special treat.
In 1913, the rail and boat journey from London to Paris was 6.5 hours, and that was considered really fast. Today, it's even quicker with the rail link under the channel. On the other side, a piece of history is awaiting. I'm about to board the legendary Orient Express. I'm going on the Orient Express to Venice and Prague in the footsteps of Agatha Christie and any number of wealthy, important and glamorous passengers over the last century.
Oh my goodness, look at they're all lined up to say hello.
Welcome to the Orient Express.
Thank you very, very much. Look at the lineup.
Would you care to meet your crew?
Well,
They'll be looking after you for the entire journey.
Oh, that'd be...
No,
when people come up to me at the moment, they literally are seemingly thrilled to see me here because it's the Orient Express and I'm best known as Hercule Poirot.
Walter is your head barman?
It does surprise me, though, how many genuine fans there are of that extraordinary little man. My initial reaction when I look at the train is, my goodness, what an extraordinary piece of engineering and the history. But the first vision of the train is that it's huge and it's so tall. It's a big, big train.
Every one of these carriages is a restored original from the 1920s. The world has changed. This train hasn't.
Let me now introduce you to your steward who will be
right.
looking after you during the journey. Mr. Suchet, this is Rupert.
Hello, Rupert.
Hello, sir.
Hello, very
Nice
nice
to meet you.
Very nice to meet you. You look
Thank you
splendid,
very much.
both of you. Look at you.
Very high.
It is high, isn't it?
In Agatha Christie's book, Poirot boards the Orient Express in Istanbul.
Oh, this is extraordinary.
He would have been travelling in a tiny first-class sleeper just like mine.
Look at this marquetry. Couldn't be more comfortable.
The classic route of the Orient Express was from Paris to Istanbul. It first ran on the 13th of August 1888. The journey time was 81 hours and 40 minutes, a lightning speed when any other transport could take weeks. It was an immediate success, and travel would never be the same.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening, and on behalf of the crew, welcome on board. My name is Bruno Janssens, and I will be a train manager of this trip of the Venice-Saint-Malo Orient Express.
Today's train is almost a quarter of a mile long. It comprises 3 restaurants, cocktail bar, and 12 sleeping cars. Each cabin, a snug 5 feet by 8 feet, has everything a discerning 1920s traveller would need.
That's the wash basin there. So we have hot water and cold water. This is the main light here. And this is the thing here you can hang your watch or your keys. Or,
that's where you put your fob watch.
Yeah.
I read about that.
That's a protection for your fob watch, yeah.
Okay.
David, you see this call button here?
Yes.
Before you get like an unusual call, because sometimes passenger will just lean back or the alarm will go off.
By accident.
By accident, a lot of times. So we have to actually get them changed to the flat button because sometimes we have like honeymooners or younger couples.
I understand that. Yes.
And they'll be doing their things inside the room.
I beg your pardon?
They'll be doing things in the room and they're making a lot of movements and stuff, and then the button will go off.
I won't be needing that then tonight.
But I may be needing a toilet, only it's at the end of the corridor. And did I tell you? There's no shower. By the 1900s, the Orient Express was one route in the vast European network of luxury trains run by the Compagnie Internationale des Wagons-Lits. It became the transport of choice for British diplomats heading to the Empire in the East, as well as a roll call of gun runners and spies. The infamous dancer and spy, Mata Hari, was known to be a passenger, and Robert Baden-Powell, the founder of the Scouts, covered up his spying missions on board by pretending to be a butterfly collector. I'm now well on the way to Paris and passing through the battlefields of the Somme. The First World War put a halt to the Orient Express, but one historic dining carriage would play a vital role at the end of the war. On the 11th hour, on the 11th day of the 11th month, 1918, restaurant car 2419 was hauled to a wooded clearing and became the extraordinary location for the German surrender. After the war, the service resumed and it became the golden era for the Orient Express. No money was spared. Celebrated artists and craftsmen were commissioned to build the carriages. Glassware was supplied by Lalique, and the Art Deco woodwork by designer René Prou, both as famous in their day as top fashion designers are today.
I've got a menu here from July 1935. Wow. The real thing. Compagnie Internationale des Wagons-Lits. What else have we got in here? Well, that's what it used to be like. Gosh, that's wonderful. How would you like to have this? Consommé breton, turbot dauphine, followed by côtelette d'agneau, that's lamb cutlets, beignet d'abricot, that's apricot tart, I would imagine, and coffee. And the whole dinner will set you back 4 shillings. And that's without the tip. Well, that's very expensive.
Agatha Christie sampled this high-class travel many times on her trips to the Middle East.
Agatha Christie herself cancelled a trip to the West Indies because She wanted to go on the Orient Express instead. And she went all the way to Istanbul. She had an extraordinary mind. I mean, if she was on this train, I mean, she learnt the train and used it in the story.
In Murder on the Orient Express, the victim, 13 suspects and Poirot are caught in a snowdrift and trapped in one carriage. Agatha Christie captures the atmosphere of this train with remarkable detail.
She heard the click of the wash basin in the adjoining carriage, where Ratchet, the man who was murdered, was having a wash. And she would have noticed things like the watch holder there, the great observer, and noting the little details that...
In the book, Poirot describes how passengers from all walks of life are thrown together for days, never to see each other again at the end of the journey. He sees this as the romance of the train. I'm starting to understand how he felt. As we near Paris, it's time for dinner. And just like days gone by when people dressed up for the theatre, this is a trip where you definitely have to look your best.
When I was a young actor and very unemployed, I actually worked at Moss Bros, and I was in the formal wear department. I learned how to do bow ties because I knew that if I could teach anybody to tie a bow tie, I'd always get a tip of 10 shillings. So I became quite adept at doing my own tie. Dinner calls. I think this has to be my cardiovascular exercise for the day, and it has to be the longest walk to any restaurant car I have ever had on any train. Builds up an appetite. It's unbelievable. It just goes on and on and on. And on and on and on. It's such a long way. Thank you. Hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hello.
For me, the cocktail bar encapsulates the spirit of the party train. This must have been in the 30s, when royalty was vying for attention with movie stars like Marlene Dietrich. With so many couples on board, I'm very aware that I'm on my own. Luckily, I'm dining with Vincent Goulon, train manager and fellow Agatha Christie fan.
This is wonderful. Is this the original restaurant car?
Yeah, this one is the Lalique car that was actually decorated by Lalique himself.
Is that Lalique glass?
Absolutely. It's called the Bacchanals.
Yeah, I can see why.
This is your filet de beef.
Thank you very much.
Foie.
The classic journey was to where? The big long journey that you said.
The original journey, the one that went through the 1920s and 30s, from Paris down to Istanbul.
Right the way down there. How long would that have taken?
At the time, it was taking about 3.5, 4 days. There were several routes, because the trains will have several carriages coming from different points and meeting in Zagreb or in Bucharest, and then going further down, unhooking to go one to Athens, one to Constantinople. And that's actually a train that Agatha Christie and her husband were taking very often.
When they went on a dig, or when they went on an archaeological dig?
Absolutely. Yeah. The railways were not as good as today.
No.
The weather condition would affect you a lot more. The delays with the steam engine.
Yes.
So it was quite a crossing, I'm sure.
We have now stopped in Paris. New passengers will be embarking for the trip to Venice, and Rupert is busy transforming my cabin for the night.
I said that. Albert Finney was my second favourite. Definitely.
On board, there's a genuine sense of being whisked away from real life and transported to a world of self-indulgence, where possibly something or anything could happen. And many times it did.
You've solved it. I bet you haven't. Bravo. There we go. My evening was sensational. Of all things on a train, I had a soufflé, which was very hard to do, I'm told, but it was very delicious. Whoops. Oh, wow, look at that, my bed's... Well, I've been having dinner. Rupert said he would, and he has done my bedroom. Look at that.
There's something curiously thrilling about settling down to sleep on a train with such a racy reputation. Over the years, the Orient Express has often hit the headlines, but one story would inspire 1 million paperbacks. In 1929, the train was trapped in a snowdrift for 10 days, 60 miles from Istanbul. There were no murders, but the story captured the imagination of Agatha Christie, and she had the starting point for Murder on the Orient Express. What's more, my carriage was actually on that train.
Now here I am, my first night in this extraordinary compartment. And this was where Poirot would have had his first night's sleep, and where I'm going to have mine. So, good night.
While I was sleeping, the Orient Express has travelled hundreds of miles across the borders of France and Germany, heading to Austria. Meanwhile, early riser Rupert has been busy with my breakfast.
Would you like me to pour a first cup for you?
That'd be lovely, thank you very much. I slept quite fitfully. Possibly I'm not used to the noises or the sudden movement of the train. And I was trying to remember the story and what Poirot heard. In fact, I did hear from next door the sound of the basin clicking against the wall. And of course he was sleeping right next to the guy who was murdered.
Most people don't sleep well because the train is rocking. So I always tell them that to take a second trip, and they will sleep very, very well.
Take a second. And if you don't sleep well on that one, why not take a third?
Yeah.
That's so interesting to me, because it's very much like a sort of narrowboat. Everything fits into little corners.
Exactly. Voila. Here we go.
That's terrific.
You like it?
Yeah. Maybe I'll have another sleep, though.
No problem. I'll make it again for you. Yeah.
We are slowly approaching Munich. So we're going southbound, approaching to the Austrian border. In the early 20th century, border crossing was a lot more difficult. When you board the train, your steward takes your passports and holds them. Whenever border officers come on board the train, they see the steward in each car, and the steward shows them the passport. So you don't get troubled, you know, every hour or every 5 hours when you cross the border.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I just wanted to inform you that we're just about ready to arrive as I speak into Innsbruck, where we'll be staying for about 35 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Welcome to Innsbruck.
Oh, thank you very much.
Okay.
Hey, look at that.
I've been on board for 20 hours, so the Innsbruck stop is a welcome chance to get a bit of fresh air.
Ready? Thank you. Apparently, they change engines quite often. I got quite worried last night. I thought, my gosh, that driver must be tired. So naive, huh? Because they change them all the time.
Each border crossing we changed engine with a local engine. 5 border crossings, so between 5 and 7 engine. Because each time we go up, we need an extra engine, sometimes in the front or in the rear, to push us up.
To push you up. And do the crews change all the time as well? The driver and the...
Yes, because it's a local driver.
Oh, is it? Right.
What schoolboy hasn't dreamt of driving a big red engine?
Ready?
And I was no exception.
Wonderful.
You can have a chance to drive the Orient Express.
What?
You have a chance to drive within...
Me?
Yeah, the Orient Express until Prague.
You're a very lucky man, sir.
You are, I believe, the only one.
Absolutely.
Am I the only person that's ever...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you feel safe?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
I'm now an official crew member of the Orient Express.
Enjoy the ride.
I can't believe this. I'm like a schoolboy now.
That's cool, but
at my age, I've got a first new thing happening to me, which is very exciting. So you're driving both engines.
I have one engine about 10,000 horsepower. Wow. Yeah, it's. I do it about 25 years. It's always cool.
Is it?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Oh, right. So we can go now.
We go now.
Whoa. Here we go. My goodness. Every boy's dream.
We're now leaving Innsbruck for the 50-mile run to the Italian border through the Brenner Pass. And it's my turn to drive the engine.
So now I'm going to push this forward and we're going to go faster, yes?
In the early 20th century, these mountains echoed to the sounds of tunnels blasting through solid rock. The longest was the 12-mile Simplon tunnel linking Switzerland and Italy. Around 60 men died building it, but it shaved half a day off the journey between Paris and Istanbul. The new route via Venice gave its name to the Simplon Orient Express.
This is unique. I'm actually driving the Orient Express. Ah. Am I going too fast?
Think it's 1,000 tons you carry.
Unbelievable.
And it's going up.
Yes.
The Brenner Pass is one of the lower routes through the Southern Alps, but we still have to climb 2,500 feet to get to the top.
It's very hard for me to believe there is so much behind me.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Oh, there's a train.
Ooh. Yes, it's a train.
One engineering marvel meets another as we pass under the Europa Bridge, a staggering 600 feet high.
We got a 1,000-ton going at 80 kilometers an hour, 160 passengers. That is a tremendous weight at this speed to suddenly stop. Going in the tunnel.
Just up ahead, there's a spectacular curve of track that I've been told to look out for.
Oh my goodness! I can see the whole train.
Yes.
Unbelievable. 400 meters. It's huge. It's so long. No wonder it took a long time to get to dinner last night.
We're approaching the Italian border at Brenner, and sadly, I have to leave Wolfgang and his wonderful engine.
I'll be very sad to see it go. It's been a wonderful experience.
Yes, it's
absolutely unbelievable. Wow. That was amazing. As I said earlier, I keep using the word amazing and extraordinary, but this was like every young boy's dream come true. I've driven the Orient Express. So, bye-bye. Bye-bye.
So now we are in Italy. And here we're still in Austria.
That's gone, and an Italian locomotive will come all the way and join that, because that is the Orient Express without a locomotive.
And that's the way it's going to stay for a while, because the Italian engine isn't working.
Ce ne sono due disponibili, solo che una è questa qua avanti. No. Right now we have a problem with the first engine. The Italian railways, they decide to park on it, and we wait on a new engine.
There are problems even with today's technology. Imagine the complex challenge of getting a steam train across Europe in the 1920s. After a very pleasant hour, a new engine arrives.
Now we go to Venice, and we have to go.
When Agatha Christie travelled on this train, its passenger list read like a who's who of European royalty. I know times have changed, but I'd like to meet some passengers to find out what brought them on board the Orient Express today.
Well, we're here on a very peculiar reason, really, because it started off not as us coming. John, perhaps you'd like to explain.
Well, I bought the tickets about 18 months ago for my mother and sister, because my mother had said that was one thing that left that she really wanted to do, one trip that she would love to do. And then sadly she didn't quite make it, and she died actually about a month ago. And at the same time, it's our 25th wedding anniversary in a week's time, so we thought, well, we'll come.
Well, actually, it was a birthday present for my daughter Tina. Yes.
Well, you must be a very special dad.
Exactly. Exactly.
We're doing it for our honeymoon.
Oh, how wonderful!
Yeah.
Congratulations.
We wanted a special occasion. This train is special.
From Victorians travelling to the Empire to celebrating couples today, the clientele of the Orient Express has changed. Something which didn't feature on the early train was a bar. This one was built in the 1980s and it's run by Walter.
Hello. Welcome to the bar.
Thank you very much. Do you ever close? Is it open all day?
The bar open 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
But sometime also can happen we don't close the bar until the next morning. Some sunrise in Paris. Going to Paris, a guest will enjoy the bar all night long.
That's mine coming. Can you hear that? Oh. Well, I will enjoy that. Thank you, Walter, very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Cheers. Cheers.
This was always an indulgent train. Even in the 30s, as depression and turmoil mounted over Europe and other trains introduced second-class sleepers, the Orient Express defied the grim realities and kept on partying. But the rise of fascism in Europe took its toll. The train grabbed yet another headline in 1931, when it was blown up by a fascist bomb in Hungary. 20 people were killed. But among the survivors was glamorous exotic dancer Josephine Baker, who sung patriotic songs as they awaited rescue. It was around this time Murder on the Orient Express was published. In the book, Poirot is trapped in a carriage with the 13 suspects, each one carefully allocated a particular cabin by Agatha Christie.
How does this carriage relate to the carriage I'm in now?
This actual carriage is as close as you could get to the one she used to design the murder plot. What says 6 and 7 is actually will be this bed here and the berth just above.
And so that would be mine?
That would be yours.
So where would Poirot have been in this layout that we're in now? He would be where?
It would be just a bit further down the corridor in the 5th compartment. There's one little thing that was used at the time. I think today would make any safety inspector scream, but those are candle holders. Because they wouldn't have electrics like we have today. This is the two only one that have survived in this only car.
The fact that Agatha Christie was actually on this train, and this train inspired her to write the book, is obviously now even more inspiring for me, knowing that I'm going to play it and play the man himself in that story.
Agatha Christie captured the Orient Express at the height of its glamour and intrigue. But in 1939, the Second World War stopped the train in its tracks, and a wagon-lit carriage was once again about to make history. When Hitler invaded France in 1940, he extracted his revenge for the First World War by removing the 1918 armistice carriage from its museum and forcing the French to surrender in that same dining car. Later, when Germany was losing the war, Hitler had it destroyed to avoid his own humiliation in the same carriage. All these carriages have their own story to tell. Some were used for troop transport, others were hospitals, and one carriage, still on this train, provided a more exotic service in occupied France.
The car we're entering right now, which is 3544, was actually requisitioned by Hitler and used it for his officers as a brothel.
As a brothel?
Yes, absolutely.
What a shame.
Yes, from 42 to 45.
Yeah.
Hundreds of carriages were lost or destroyed in the war. It was now a huge task to find and repair what was left and restore long-distance luxury travel in post-war Europe.
It's hard to believe, isn't it, that we left London yesterday morning and now we're actually arriving in Venice after the most extraordinary, historic trip.
My journey's only halfway through, but it's a welcome chance to stretch my legs in the most glamorous stop-off for the Orient Express. Venice. Probably the world's most romantic city was always a popular destination for probably the world's most romantic train.
Welcome to Venice.
London to Venice has taken 36 hours. And in a time before air travel, this would have been the fastest way to go.
The cliché is true, isn't it? Every corner there's a photograph.
Much of Venice's allure was down to its glamorous lifestyle, something that it had in common with the Orient Express. But there's also a darker side to Venice that matches well the intrigue of the train. Its atmosphere of enclosed spaces and water has inspired so many crime writers. My guide is local resident and crime fiction expert, Tony Suchet.
So many crime stories are set here, aren't they?
Yes, and it's ironic too that most of them are about foreigners. But here you get blindsided. You know, the city's too magical. All those reflections make you can't tell reality from illusion.
No.
But the lure of the water was no small part, because even a resident jumps just a little when you hear a plunk in the canal late at night, and you hear the sound of your own footsteps.
Yes.
And it gives a certain atmosphere and the idea of bodies floating in the water.
Are there many bodies in the canals?
Mostly in the crime novels.
Agatha Christie herself never actually set a crime story in Venice, did she?
No. And yet it is strange that she would miss this.
Yeah, I mean, this is
full
perfect.
of opportunity.
Perfect.
Full of opportunity for her.
The Venice leg of the Orient Express was popular with honeymooners, but this was only one stop en route to its final destination in the east.
What an atmosphere here.
Sadly, I can't stay sightseeing any longer. I have an important train to catch.
Look at that. The most fantastic Grand Canal. The station. Minutes.
Nice to see you
It's
again.
nice to be back.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye, Venice. And we're on our way to Prague.
After the Second World War, the Orient Express resumed its service, but it was a shadow of its former self. The exclusiveness of the train was out of kilter with the times. The Cold War closed the old routes through Eastern Europe, and competition from cheap air travel made it uneconomic. Finally, in May 1977, a shabby train left Paris for Istanbul for the last time. For me, it's time for dinner.
These shoes are very special to me because I used these shoes for the last series of Poirot. Every time I put them on, it sort of takes me back. I'm now going into the kitchen, which I know is very small, I know it's very hot, and it's actually sounding very chaotic, but I am definitely not going to meet Gordon Ramsay.
Là, il y a un filet de bœuf à point.
Go, go, go.
Yes.
Combien s'il vous plaît là derrière? Please, please, please.
Yeah, I know France.
Go, go, go.
Oh my goodness. Hello, you're Nikolai?
Yeah.
There's Christiane. Hello, my goodness, you're busy. This to me is rather like backstage in a theatre where all the work is going on. It's similar, isn't it? Very similar. And it's very hot.
When we go to Istanbul,
yes,
sometimes we can have some 45 degree in the kitchen.
45 degrees.
Yes.
You cook between 12 and 15 hours in a day?
Yes, every day.
Tell me, what is the most difficult thing about cooking on a train?
The souffle.
Yes.
Why would you have something to make it difficult like that?
Because you like when it's difficult, you know?
Deux minutes.
But you all seem so calm. You don't panic. Or do you? You do?
Yeah.
Do you? So this is Hell's Kitchen, isn't it?
Even today, these kitchens dish out 150 kilos of caviar and 22,000 bottles of champagne every year. It's little wonder I need to stretch my legs.
Well, you suddenly realise that amidst all this luxury, it's no bathroom en suite included, and we are still on the train. So a man's got to do what a man's got to do.
The final indignity of the Orient Express was played out in Monte Carlo in 1977 with an auction of old carriages. Princess Grace added glamour to the occasion and rekindled public interest. In the crowd was a wealthy rail enthusiast called James Sherwood. His dream was to restore the old rolling stock to their former glory and run a private service across Europe. He bought his first 2 carriages, and 5 years later, the Venice Samplon Orient Express was running. We are now in Austria, en route to Vienna. And Mario is my steward for this leg.
Oh, good morning, David.
Oh, hi, Mario.
Breakfast.
My goodness, thank you very much.
Especially prepared for you.
That's very kind.
The staff of the Orient Express, recruited from the grand hotels of Europe, included the finest of chefs and the most discreet of cabin stewards. For Mario, who's worked here for 22 years, old-fashioned service goes hand in hand with old-fashioned technology.
It is the original system to heat the water and the heating during the winter.
This is a real surprise for me. I couldn't believe, I still can't believe that you're using coal.
It's where we sleep, where we work.
Well, before, when the Orient Express was moving along, you've got some seats in the corridor here, like a bench seat.
Down there.
Is that where the steward would have slept?
Absolutely. Here, like this. See, like this.
And go to sleep?
When you read the book Murder in the Orient Express, the steward is here and checks everything.
That's right, because Poirot calls him, doesn't he?
Yes. If the walls could talk, they have so many things to say.
There would be many stories.
Oh, yes. And most of the stories are concerning love, sex, maybe. In fact, this train is a train of love, but also of freedom, because the train breaks the borders, the frontiers, And as soon as the wall in East Germany came down, after 1 year we were in Budapest.
Yeah, that is extraordinary, actually.
It's extraordinary, because this train brings love, democracy, if there is no democracy, you cannot run this train,
Mario's love train has been crossing borders since 1982. It's not the same as the original Orient Express, but it does capture the spirit of the golden years that Hercule Poirot embodies.
I think one of the things he would have loved about the train is observing. He's a great observer.
He worked with psychology. Always the details, the little details. The truth, the facts, Hastings, the facts.
He is extraordinary.
We've just crossed the Czech border on the way to Prague, a journey only possible since the fall of the Iron Curtain. I wanted to unravel the mystery of the Orient Express, why it had captured so many people's imaginations. I've now travelled 2,000 miles across 6 countries, and I think I understand. Here, in your own private world, where strangers become friends as you quietly pass through frontiers, there's a real sense of history. Since the Orient Express began in the 19th century, empires have faded, dictators have risen and fallen, and borders redrawn. The dream of the Orient Express was to travel freely across a Europe without boundaries. And now, after 100 years of conflict and change, frontiers are fading. People can travel unhindered across Europe. And the dream is coming true.
I'm sure I'm going to see you again soon.
I'm sure you will. I shall be back. It's extraordinary how many friendships one has made.
Big wave.
As much as this being an extraordinary train, it would be nothing without the crew.
Hey, bravo.
Here we are in Prague, started off in London, and we've arrived. But you know, I don't know exactly how the saying goes, but it's not arriving, it's how you get there. I can't think of a better way.